Welcome to my podcast, Chat with Loki. It's about sharing stories of grit, resilience, wisdom from unseen, unheard, everyday heroes of life. Thank you, Vanessa, for joining today. Welcome to Chat with Loki. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to be here today, Loki.
Oh, it's I heard something, a story to be told about you. I don't know what it is, but before we go into that, please tell something about you. Introduce yourself to the audience.
So I am now a 41-year-old mother of two. I'm happily married to my partner for 10 years now, but we've been together since our 20s.
Wow.
I've travelled a lot like yourself. I know you've travelled a lot, so I've travelled a lot in my youth.
Yeah.
I've had my fair share of adversity, I think.
Wow. Okay.
But I've always chosen to, push through and find the resilience within so that I can continue to enjoy the beauty of life.
Nice. So, Vanessa, and your surname, Mera.
Mera, yes.
Is that Spanish? Or?
Yeah, my parents are both from Ecuador. They're from a very small town in Ecuador called Riobamba.
Okay.
My father's older than my mother, and my father's actually one of my mother's older brother's friends. Wow. So that's how they met. It's not a typically South American surname, I think.
Yeah. I was just
I kind of feel really bummed about that. I'd really like to be a Hernandez or a Fernandez or a Lopez or something that someone goes, oh yeah, you're South American, because that surname kind of doesn't.
Yeah. So you're born in
South America? No, I was actually born here. So
okay.
My two elder sisters. So I have. There's four of us. So my father was quite cheeky as a young man, and he fathered a child outside of marriage, outside of a relationship even, really. That's why I say cheeky.
Yeah.
So I have a half older sister from my father.
Okay.
And she is about 3 years older than my elder sister, so my full sister.
Yeah.
So I have my full sister, my older sister who is Caddy, then my middle sister Erica, and then me. I am the baby of the family.
3 girls.
3 girls from my parents, yes. 4 girls from my father.
Wow.
My dad always wanted a son and he never got one, but he's got an abundance of grandsons.
Jeez. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So what's that place again in Ecuador?
It's called Riobamba. So if I give you a kind of... so that you can visualize how far it is from the capital. So the capital of Ecuador is Quito.
Okay.
And Riobamba is about 3.5 hours away. So imagine Canberra to Sydney.
Oh, right.
That type of distance.
Wow, okay. Is there a meaning to that name?
Riobamba. So Rio meaning river.
Okay.
And so Riobamba is part of... Ecuador's kind of broken up into like provinces, and they give them names. So they're part of the province of El Chimborazo, and El Chimborazo is actually a snow-capped mountain there. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's part of La Sierra, so the more of the inland, and it's colder. I've been told that over the years it's gotten a lot warmer. But it's generally a cooler part of Ecuador, because Ecuador can be quite warm. Yeah. So we've got, we're right on the equator and we've got a beautiful coast.
So basically the meaning is something to do with the river.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're born here.
Born here.
And where's all these other siblings?
My 2 sisters are here. So
okay.
So my eldest sister actually was born in Ecuador. So she was born in Riobamba.
Okay.
And when my parents immigrated here in 1972, I think it was, or 1973. So it was the 2 of them bringing maybe 2-year-old,
right.
my 2-year-old sister here.
Yeah.
And then my middle sister's born here as well,
Okay.
in the 70s, and then I was born in the 80s, also born here. But my I guess my connection to my heritage and my culture is very strong.
Yeah.
And I think that's a testament to my parents. My parents were very much in the family home. This is our sanctuary, and this is where everything that is related to our culture and our language and how we bring our children up and our values lie. And so in this home, we only speak Spanish.
Oh, really?
We do not speak English. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember many occasions when I would come home from school and, you know, might say, my mum might tell me to do something and I'd respond in English, and she would very quickly, and she understands, my parents are bilingual as well, they had to learn the language.
Yeah.
And my mum would turn around in the kitchen and she would say, ¿Qué? Which means what?
Oh, okay.
Yo no entiendo. I don't understand. And she absolutely did understand, but that was the cue. Oh, I can't speak in English and I'd have to speak in Spanish. So I'm very actually grateful now that I'm older and I can read and I can write, and I've travelled extensively through South America. I have a relationship with my family that's over there that do not speak English.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for that, because it's opened a whole network of people to my disposal that I otherwise would not have had available to me, especially in times of need.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I'm really glad for that.
So your parents straight away came to Sydney, or back in 70s?
Yeah, so they came here at the time when the Australian government was looking for people to come and I guess build this beautiful nation that we now have in a whole host of skilled type of migrants. So my father's actually by trade, he's an aeronautical engineer. So my dad's actually quite an intelligent man.
Yeah.
He's really funny and he loves to dance, and he was one of my fondest memories of him is how triggered he would get when I couldn't do my maths work, because he would be like, how can you not understand that? How can you not do that? Because in his very mathematical mind, that was very easy. So he's an aeronautical engineer.
I will share something. I don't know what it is. I'm attracting this engineering energy.
Yeah.
I'm an engineer by, I've done my electronics engineering, and a couple of guests I had in this podcast also had their fathers being engineers.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know anything about it until I start asking them. So, wow, I don't think it's coincidence, but it's, so your dad's aeronautical engineer, so comes here from that skilled background.
Yeah.
And your mom?
My mum, she had to finish school a little bit earlier. So obviously my mum is born in a very different... Well, both my parents were really.
Yeah.
Born in the 1940s to really large families. So my mum is one of surviving... how many of them is there? 8, I think, or 9.
Yeah.
My dad is also one of 9. Actually, no, my mum's from more because she had 3 siblings pass. So she's one of 12, but there's 9 of them surviving.
Wow.
And so big families. My grandfather was a sastre, what they call a sastre, which is a tailor. So he had his own business. My grandmother also had her tienda, her little corner store. So they were, I guess, very entrepreneurial for their time back then. But I guess the focus was much more on the sons getting an education, the daughters getting an education, but in a very different capacity. And so my mum went off to seamstress. She's a seamstress. She went off to seamstress school.
All right.
She hated it.
Oh.
Yeah, she hated it. But we still get her to lift our hems up and do things now, and she's very good at it. But she never really enjoyed it. She actually always says she always wanted to be an accountant. So surprisingly, my mum's actually very good at maths too. So I don't know why I'm not that great at it. And so she came here, I guess, with no idea of what this new land was going to bring, with no idea of how her journey would begin and end here, with no family support, with no language. And I often look back at that and I think, wow, that is a huge thing to do. And I think as children of migrants, we never really kind of look at our parents and go, what you did was actually monumental. You left everything that you know,
Yes.
everything, family, friends, your life there, your routine there, in the pursuit of something better that you didn't know whether it was going to be better or not. You didn't know the language. Some of them had children along with them, and yet they did it. Like the bravery in that is huge. Like it's huge.
I think that's the most courageous thing, and also I think I would say it's the biggest sacrifice. They jumped into something not knowing what's next for just one thing. They want a better life for the next generation.
Yeah.
And that's the most selfless act, which we don't really appreciate quite often.
I
And
absolutely agree.
It's beautiful that that's one of the major purpose and existence of a parent is giving the next generation a platform, or I would say a better life. And we all have it inside, but not many will take the step because they were scared, there's fear, there's change, all those things.
Yeah.
But migrants, especially coming from these days, I would say it's a little bit different because there's a lot of connectivity now.
Yeah.
But back in 70s, even when I came here to make a phone call to India, I had to wait at the Telstra booth on the street, especially in winter time. And we used to buy these $10 phone cards, and then they used to run off at probably, I would say, 30 minutes or something. And there used to be a queue.
For people wanting to make a phone call.
Make a phone call. And a lot of people don't know this. And just to, hear a voice from your mother, or hear a voice from your dad or sister or siblings, whoever is overseas.
Yeah.
And I still remember that. And now the technology has advanced so much, people don't even think these things existed.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's and when you do go back, when you do go back to visit, it's very humbling because you see how they live, and how your parents lived, and why they wanted something better, not only for their future children but for themselves.
True.
And like you mentioned before, fear. And I see my parents as two people that fear didn't hold them back, because I'm absolutely sure that they were fearful, especially my mum. She was young.
Yeah.
She was about 24 at the time, with a small child, didn't know the language. Her heart was full of love, clearly, because she loved my father enough to follow him to the ends of the world.
True, yeah.
And that's what carried her.
Yeah.
But I'm sure she was fearful, and yet, just in spite of that fear, she still pushed through it, and she came here.
I would say it would be more challenging for a female to leave her parents, her family, and follow this step to the one person she has to trust, love, believe. And I would say that's a massive leap of faith.
Yeah. In my father as well.
Yeah.
So she, we're always told, we shouldn't place all our eggs in one basket, but I believe that she did.
Right.
Because she didn't have the security of her family that if anything were to go wrong, who was she going to turn to?
True, yeah.
It was solely him. And whilst they'd have their challenges, like all marriages do, it wasn't perfect, but you know what? It was good enough. And they're still together now.
Beautiful. What do you think one thing kept them together out of all the challenges you would have seen as a daughter?
I think they do love each other. They really love each other. And
okay,
I think
what's your definition of love?
What's my definition of love?
Yeah.
So it's probably going to be a very traditional definition of love because I've got very traditional parents.
Yeah.
So my father is an amazing provider. He's
Right.
always been a really good provider, not just for my mother, but for us 3 girls
Yeah.
and all of his grandchildren. When my dad engages with you prior to his dementia,
Yeah.
he was engaged with you, so he was present. And
Yeah.
so I feel that love, especially from a male,
Yeah.
is being present and listening.
Nice.
With my mum is very much, now that I'm older, I can kind of associate it to something. She's very much an acts of service.
Yeah.
So my mum was always cooking and
Yeah,
cleaning and having a nice home for us and checking in on me especially.
Yeah.
You know, how are you going, and reading to me, giving me quality time, always quality time with my mum. So I guess that's my definition of love. It's where you're able to combine quality love, quality time
Yeah.
with someone.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be hours and hours and hours. It just needs to be quality.
Yeah.
And where that is the sole focus of what you're doing with that person. I've chosen to spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours with you. I'm
Yeah.
going to give you my presence in that time, and I expect the presence in return almost, in a sense, because that's been loving. And it doesn't need to be an intimate love or anything like that, but just love in general. I think time is such an important thing that we can give to people,
Yeah.
and it's free.
Absolutely. I think what you said is really beautiful. The presence. We live in a world full of distractions, full of people looking for gratification, notifications. It's been nonstop. And what you just mentioned about being there for each other, 100%, is actually love.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. It's another way of looking into it. But to be present, you got to offer yourself, your true self. So what I'm hearing is your dad is a provider.
Very much so.
And your mother is at service. So provider, service, servant are, for me, divine words. But today, in this day and age, anything to do with service or servant or provide, all these things are being taken out of proportion as if it's something demeaning, or why should I do this to him, or why should I do it to her? What's your view on that?
I don't agree with it.
Okay.
I think that if that is how we choose to love someone, then that is our choice. So if I choose to love my husband by providing a nice home, by making sure that his needs are met as well as mine,
Sure.
having a meal available, creating the structure of a house into a home, if that's what I see as being love and loving, and it's for my family, then what is wrong with that? Why should I be demonized by that, or be told as a woman that, because that's how I want to be, my husband is oppressing me, or I am oppressed, or I don't buy into any of that. I saw what a lovely functioning, I guess, traditional upbringing can look like. And whilst my marriage to my husband isn't exactly like my parents, because we are two different people, but there are a lot of elements that I have brought in from seeing that. Because I would see the joy that my father would have when he'd come home and, there was, a warm meal ready for him, and we'd kind of all hurry around and sit down at the table because we were waiting for my dad to get home from dinner, and we'd always sit down at the table to eat dinner, always. TV off, we'd sit down and have dinner as a family. And that's something that I brought into my own family as well.
Nice.
So we have dinner together. And when we would sit and have dinner, we would talk. And then, we'd finish, and then we'd all be like, he's our dad. And so we'd all, pick up the table and, put it away, and, my mum would wash up and then we'd sit down. I even remember sometimes, getting slippers for my dad, like, oh, Dad, can I get you your slippers? And it brought not only such joy to me, but also to him as well. Like because he was like, wow, like my children love me,
So he feels more motivated to provide more.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's one of the major motivation for, I've seen some stats. The men who have family, wife and kids, they're more motivated to make more money and take, calculated risks to provide for the family. And the ones who don't have, they're less motivated and they're self-motivated on only certain things, and they're more depressed as they age. And it doesn't go really well, at the end of the lifetime. Yeah. So, it's beautiful. Hearing all this, do you think the culture, the South American culture and that family connection really made a massive influence in your own relationship and also your relationship with your kids?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, hand on heart. It played a huge role because my parents came from families that probably did very similar things. I mean, because we learn from our parents, right? They are our first teachers.
True.
So I can only imagine that they had, I guess, similar upbringings, or there were similar things that they experienced in childhood that they then passed on to the positive stuff, right? Because everyone always has something negative that we don't want to bring into the next generation. So I'm talking about the positive stuff that they have, brought in. And I can say, because I have met both my parents' family through extensive travel, and it's loving and it's warm, and, people are helping each other, and, there's music on, and I remember there'd be music on and my grandmother cooking and the smells and, dancing with my cousins. And so very much so, it plays a huge part.
On the flip side to that, there's a lot of divorce. There's a lot of single dads or single moms trying to bring kids. Unfortunately, they don't know, they can't experience these things because they don't have that connection coming from, let's say, parents or grandparents. So do you have any thoughts on that? Because I think there's over 50% of marriages fail in the Western society. And I think in America, things are more worst when it comes to kids being raised by either single mothers or single parent. And I think it's already impacting those kids not having role models. And they do say, it takes a village to raise a kid. And it seems like you're experiencing it, but majority out there are not, for whatever reason. What do you think is going to happen for them? Or is there an area they can actually focus on with whatever they got?
Firstly, for a part of that question, I think it's sad. I think it's sad and it's unfortunate that not every child gets to experience a childhood that they deserve, firstly, because every child deserves to have a good childhood or a good enough childhood, right?
Absolutely,
where they're not going into adulthood weighed down by trauma and anxiety and depression and, I didn't have a dad or I didn't have a mum, whatever the situation may be. So that's sad in itself. I think that I have some single family friends.
Oh, okay.
And so I know that it's very challenging.
Yeah.
And not only is it challenging for the adult in that situation, it's very challenging for the child too. And this particular friend is seeing that. Wow. And she's very insightful and has, said to me, I think my child needs a man, needs a
Yeah.
male figure in
Yeah.
her life. And she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And not just any male figure, but a positive male role
Of course,
model.
yeah. There's toxic people out there too.
That's right. There's toxic men and there's toxic women. There's toxic humans. I don't believe that, one is more toxic than the other. We all, as humans, have the ability to be toxic.
Absolutely,
we
we're
do.
animals.
Yes, at the core we are. And then I have a sister
Yeah.
who is also a single parent and has been a single parent. My nephew's now 28, so he was 10, or 8 he was actually at the time. So 20 years?
Yeah.
She's been a single parent because unfortunately the marriage she was in was not a healthy one.
Okay.
And she had to make the brave decision to exit that
Yeah.
relationship with 3 children under 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I look at my nephew and my nieces and they are amazing young adults.
Yeah.
They are so caring, they are so compassionate, they are so generous, they are so invested in family, and not just in their own immediate family, but in the bigger family, in our bigger family. And I think the reason that her children fared really well, even though they came from a single parent.
Yeah.
Yes, I know the statistics. Paul and I actually talk about this stuff all the time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And I think the reason why they are doing so well and have done so well, and why my sister was able to do so well as a single parent, was because she had us. She had siblings. She had my
Extended
cousins.
family. Yeah.
She had my auntie, my parents. She had friends. And in this community that my sister created for herself,
Yeah.
some of us were already in that community. Others were brought in.
Yeah.
But I guess she kind of vetoed the people, especially the males that came in, and they were all positive. So she had my sister's husband,
Yeah.
my husband,
Yeah.
a really good friend of hers
Yeah.
that was there from the very beginning. My dad. So all of these positive male role models in her community with her children
Yeah.
played a huge part. I think played a huge part.
So basically, having the extended family or the family members still can, lead to this positive experience for the kids,
Yeah, I think
rather than feeling alone and thinking, I don't have anyone, and trying to do everything by myself, kind of a mindset.
Yeah, and having the mindset of woe is me, I really don't like that mindset. And I think sometimes when people get into a situation, whatever the situation may be, not just particularly single parents, any situation that is challenging, sometimes people can get into this mindset, oh, well, I'm here, woe is me. Let's play the sympathy card, let's play this victim card, instead of going, okay, I'm in this really tough situation. What do I need to do to get out of this? What resources do I have available?
Yeah.
And seek that.
I'm just curious, for all those especially single mothers or single females out there, in their journey, they've been hurt, they've been misused, they had a bad experience, and that fear of facing again, I think, is stopping many to take the step of courage and meet another man or another, whatever relationship they're looking for. What do you think of, those individuals? They're all like, I don't need a man, I don't need anyone, I can do it all. And, you already mentioned, that's not the right mindset. But what can they do to overcome that, fear of getting hurt again, fear of, I'm not sure, it's the uncertainty. And then 5 years, 10 years passes, And some people think, it's too late. I'll get a cat or a dog.
Yeah. Well, let me caveat that. I have a dog and I'm absolutely obsessed with her. But I do have 2 children and a husband, so...
No, you have a complete family.
Yes.
Here I'm talking about, this country is the highest pet nation on the planet.
Oh, is it? I did not know that.
Per capita, per population, we have more pets than any other country on the planet.
Wow, this is actually a very interesting statistic.
I have a risk and insurance background. So sometimes we get these stats and I was like, wow. And you see more people walking with pets than kids.
Could it be because they are cheaper, potentially?
No, they don't say anything back.
That's actually really interesting, and I wonder if there is any correlation to the amount of single people we have per capita.
It's high as well.
Yeah.
A lot high. So, anyway, there's no solution there, but I think the awareness is really needed because life is not just about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It's a complete life, which means we need to experience all things: childhood, teenage, adulthood, motherhood, fatherhood, being a grandparent, all these things. And that's what ancient wisdom says, a complete life, experiencing all relationships, uncles, aunts. And that's the culture I come from.
Yeah.
And I see there's a lot of similarities with South American culture as well, where family, yes, there is all these different personalities in the family, but you stick together and you help each other.
Yeah. Family is almost like it's the foundation of everything. It is the cornerstone of everything, good and bad.
Yeah.
And look, there are things from my childhood, not necessarily that my parents did to me, but other things that had happened to me. And then as I grew and as I become an adult, then it's up to the adult, it's up to you to look back and go, oh, this is triggering me. Why is this triggering me? Why am I getting angry at my husband when he hasn't done it? Why am I getting angry over this? Why am I feeling unhappy? Mm-hmm. And when you're having all of those questions, it's like, oh, okay, it's time. Yep. It's time to go and speak to someone to help me unpack all of these whys and understand why I'm feeling this way. So I then have the tools to not be that way. So we have the capacity within us to change anything negative that has happened to us. But if, like I said, if we have that woe is me mindset, you're never going to get there because you like being in that woe is me. You like the drama. You like people being, sympathetic to you. Oh, poor you, and whatever that feeds inside of you.
Yeah. So basically the question I was asking before, what does all these individuals, single or not entering into another relationship and fear and all those things, what I'm hearing is get out of that mindset and look for opportunities out there, because the one who looks for it,
seek and you shall find.
Seek and you shall find. There you go. That's beautiful. Just with your family, what's your relationship with your dad and your mom in single sentence? One sentence for your dad, one sentence for your mom.
One sentence for each. Okay, that's difficult. I have a good relationship with both of them. My relationship with my dad, strained through my teenage years and into my early 20s. But strong. Strained but strong. Nice. There was always a bond there.
Yeah.
And the strength overcame any of the strain.
Yeah.
With my mum, it's a very typical mother-daughter relationship. I absolutely adore my mum.
Okay.
It is a loving, nurturing, available relationship.
Nice. So when you're going through, let's say, a tough time, dark time, who would you open up to first?
My mum.
Your mom. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. And were you a troubled teenager?
No, actually. I wasn't a troubled teenager. My struggle came from, I guess, being interfered with as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And those memories kind of coming back, but me suppressing them. So it was more of an internal struggle.
Yeah.
But I was always very obedient. I was actually, my mum always said, both my parents say I was a very kind of balanced teenager. So I did well at school without really having to try. I had friends. I was like a floater at school. So I had one really solid friend and we were like buddies.
Nice.
But I was always able to, if she wasn't at school, I'm going to go sit with these girls or I'm going to sit with these girls. I'd be like, hey, V, come sit with us for today. So I always made a very conscious decision throughout my whole life to choose kindness, to choose to be kind, because I think you get more in return when you choose that pathway.
What do you think that? How do you, when you're in young age, what did you see that when you give kindness, you're going to get kindness? Because you would have noticed something to follow that philosophy. What is it?
That's a really good question. I've never actually unpacked that down to the source as to why I believe that. But you're right, I probably would have seen it demonstrated in some way.
Yeah, it could be from your family, could be something in your travels, I don't know. But what you just said is really powerful. I choose kindness every time if I have a choice. And that's really powerful. Because
that's a really good, very good picking up on something there that I have not picked up on. So that's something for me to go and process that.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So what is the naughtiest thing you did when you were a kid?
The naughtiest thing I did? What is the naughtiest thing I did?
Where you got into trouble at school or you got trouble with your parents?
Didn't really get in trouble much with my parents.
Yeah.
I remember one incident where I got in trouble. So I was a little bit, I'm going to use the word annoying.
Okay.
So I used to always chase my mum was always in the kitchen cooking. That's my fondest memory of her. And that's how I learned how to cook. And that's why I love to cook.
Yeah.
So she'd always be cooking and with the wooden spoon. And I used to always come in, she'd be stirring something and I'd come in and bother her, grab tongs and tong her bottom or do whatever, sing at her, poke her, just annoy her. And she always used to say, Vanessa, stop. One day, I'm not going to tell you to stop. I'm just going to turn around and smack you with the wooden spoon. And I'll be like, you're not going to do that because I'm your favourite child. Anyway, one day came.
Yeah.
And I'm in there and I'm bothering her. And she just went whack.
Wow.
And it stopped me in my tracks because I was like,
I
was not expecting that. 2, this woman has always been saying she's going to do this, but she's never followed through. So in my mind, that's not going to happen. And 3, you're never like this with me. We have an amazing relationship. You tolerate so much.
Yeah.
And so I saw it in a different light, okay, she's human too. She gets enough as well. And I stopped. I stopped for the day. It didn't mean that I stopped forever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it just stopped in that moment.
It gave you a different side.
Of my mum.
Yeah.
Yeah. That she's not this, angelic superhuman that I, had envisaged. She also has whatever it was that she was going through that day. I kind of probably came in at the wrong time and that was enough. That was enough for her. And I received that energy from her where, the overflow.
So tell me about your cooking experiences with your mom.
So whenever my mum was cooking, it was never forced.
What's our favorite dish where, it's just stuck into your head since you were a kid? You still enjoy that today?
I'm estofado. My mum makes a really good estofado. So
please explain what that
estofado
is.
is like a stew. So it's a protein.
Okay.
So it could be meat, it could be chicken,
Yep.
some type of a protein in like a sauce, a tomato sauce base.
Okay.
There's peas in there, there's potatoes in there, and there's a whole bunch of like herbs and spices in there. And it's typically eaten with rice. So
Okay.
in Ecuador especially, we eat most of our main dishes with rice. That's like our staple. And so my mum used to make this on rotation on the regular. And she makes it really nice. And she has different variations of how to make it. And even now, when sometimes I go and visit, I can smell it and I'm like, oh, she's making lamb estofado. It's like, Mum, can I have some? Yes. So that was probably the first dish I learnt to cook with her. And I make that for my children now. And my children know how to make it.
Your mom's recipe being followed.
Yeah. And my husband also would eat that. So it's quite a typical, I guess, South American in most countries. My husband's family is from Uruguay, so they do things a little bit different to us.
Okay.
And he has a way of making it. And when he makes it, it's still nice, but it's not my mum's estofado.
See, this is the beauty of it. The same dish, each household can have a different taste.
Yeah, and you know why that is?
Nope.
Because his estofado was made with the love of his mother and his grandmother. My estofado was made with the love of my mother. So that's why it tastes different.
There you go. Yeah. Only the family can tell the difference.
Only the family can tell the difference.
So, okay, you cook a lot, of course.
I do, yeah. We've got a meal planner up there, and on Sundays usually I say to my daughter in particular, who also likes to cook, so she's kind of carrying on, I guess, this genetic tradition.
How old is your kids?
She's 16, and my son will be 14 in July.
Wow. You got two teenagers.
Two teenagers, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So these days cooking is something not everyone's taking that easily, especially when there is too many food courts, too much comfort of takeaways or Uber, all those things. How did she get into cooking?
Probably because of me, seeing mum cook all the time. So from a very young age, even from when they were babies, my husband will attest to this, I never bought packaged food for them. Wow. I always made their food when they were learning how to eat, and I would go to my mum and say, Mum, what vegetables should I put together? Because I know my mum did the same for us. Yeah. And she would say, try this combination or try that, and so I used to cook and cube things and make things fresh. Actually, when my daughter was little, this is a true story. My husband and I and my daughter, we went out to eat at a restaurant in Randwick, and I had her food, and I popped it out, and I said to the chef, to the waitress, I said, would it be all right if we could heat up this food because my daughter needs to eat? Absolutely fine. Takes it in. The waitress doesn't come and bring my food back. The chef brings the food back. And he hands me the food and he said, where did you buy this? I said, oh, no, I made it. And he said, that is absolutely delicious. What is in it? And can I have the recipe? And I told him what it was. And I said, did you try it? And he said, well, yes, he needed to for the heat to make sure it wasn't too hot for the baby. But this is a true story. And he brought it out and was like, I need this recipe. Is this what your child is eating? Like, this is amazing.
Wow.
And so my children were never fussy.
Yeah.
They didn't have food allergies. They were good eaters. They were good sleepers. And I think that is all down to this traditional style of upbringing where they didn't have packaged food. So they didn't have all of this extra crap, if I can say, in their diet that's making them kind of wired and not sleeping and not listening and disobedient and having rashes and all of these things, because everything that they consumed was, I made it. I knew what was in it.
Homemade.
Homemade. Everything was homemade.
Wow.
And so I think that's probably where that love of feeding oneself came from, because not only is it nice to feed your family and feed yourself, but it's also a very important skill. Like my son needs to know how to feed himself as well, because he can't expect that he's going to go out into the world, and what if he meets a woman that's not traditional? She's going to say, make your own dinner. He can go, all right,
True.
I'll make an estofado for us.
Yeah.
So it's a skill.
Cooking for me is kind of a spiritual experience. It's meditating. Every time I cook, I'm in that presence. You know, you're appreciating, you're creating something from all these, let's say, 10, 20, 30 ingredients. And then you're sharing that with family. And it's a beautiful experience of cooking. Suddenly that joy was taken away by all these, let's say, other things which came in. So what advice would you give to families or, mothers and fathers where they're not able to find time? Or normally they say, oh, we're too busy, that's why we're not able to do this. And they're missing out on this homemade meals to the kids. The impact and the consequence, the good impact and the consequence comes later. But a lot of people are not really focusing on that.
I think it's very interesting that you said that people don't have time.
Yeah.
I think time is something that we choose to make time for things that are of importance to us. So I don't believe in this notion of I don't have time to go for a walk in the morning, or I don't have time to cook a meal. What you're saying to me is I don't value going for a walk in the morning. I don't value cooking the meal because that's not what
It's
I
not my
value.
priority.
That's not my priority.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in that notion of there is no time, because I too am time poor. I was time poor too. Yes, I was a stay-at-home mum, but I had 2 children. I was looking after home. They were full of activities to keep them engaged. I was always out, but I made the time to cook. I made the time to cook, not only for my family, but also use that as a positive learning experience for my children. And bringing them into the kitchen. My daughter actually loved cooking so much because of the way that I taught her. She loved Dora.
Yeah.
So she was Dora, like Dora.
Yes,
those years.
Yeah.
She was obsessed with Dora. She had her little Dora apron.
Okay.
She used to put her Dora,
the
purple cap on. She used to have like a chef's cap.
Yeah.
And she had a little fake kitchen in her room.
Right.
So she used to pretend to cook, and then when it was dinner time, it'd be like, "Oh, come, Daddy's going to be home soon. Like, let's get some dinner ready." She'd put her apron on, she'd get her little stool, and I'd get her to cook. So
it's almost like a recreation of your childhood, waiting for your dad.
Yeah. And you know what? It's very interesting that you say that. My eldest sister, was having a conversation with some friends, and they were talking probably about a similar topic, where they said to each other, why did we choose to have children? Like, why did you choose to have a child? So this was like their discussion topic.
Oh, big question.
Big question, right?
Yeah.
So everyone, they all had their discussion, and then my sister actually posed that on our sister chat. So we have a sister chat, and she's like, "Hey,
sister chat.
We do. We've got a sister chat.
Just sister chat.
Yeah, it's just the 3 of us, where we can talk about anything.
Okay, no rules, no
rules,
boundaries,
no boundaries." And she posed that question to us, and they answered. And it took me a little while, actually. I think my sister told me just the other day, she said it probably took me about a year or so to respond to that question. So I really thought about it. And when I came back to her, I said, I've thought about it. And the reason I chose to have my children was exactly what you just said. I had such a positive experience as a child with my parents, especially with my mum, and that relationship was so solid that I wanted to recreate that with my own children. I wanted to recreate that bond, that nurturing that love, that childhood with my children, because I got one that was so good. And so that was my reason. But it took me a long time to process that. And it's funny that you say exactly that.
That's beautiful. You know what? It seems so simple, the answer, but it's a lifelong experience. And that's why it's just simply beautiful. And if you had that experience deep inside, any good experience would like to recreate it.
Yeah.
That's all we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I was just reading some stats. South Korea, they have a massive problem. Japan, they have a massive problem because their child birth rate has declined so badly. They're closing schools because there's no kids.
Wow.
They're closing all these, the kids-related businesses and all that stuff because they're going under 1.5 or 1. So the average should be over 2. So anything goes under 2, it's an alarm. Anything goes under 1.5 is a red flag. Anything under 1 means that nation is disappearing.
Yeah.
So South Korea, Japan, Germany, America, and Australia as well. Our birth rate also is going down. So basically a lot of times maybe they don't have these experiences what you're sharing, like that positive experience of a child. And that's why they're not looking to recreate, or they're not looking to go in that path. And I don't know the reason, but there's multiple reasons. But one of the main reasons I see, people with faith, people who are brought up in a family, they continue to do that because they see something more magical. Mm-hmm. It's beyond finance. It's beyond power, title, all those things. Because at the end, they know this path they have taken will give them the content and the fulfillment of life. I can be a CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, but when I'm in my 70s...
What good is that?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sad to think that is the path that a country is taking. It's almost like that movie, I can't remember the name of it, where it's something about, I can't remember, my husband's probably screaming the name of the movie because he knows what it is. And there is a baby that is born in like this decrepit building, and it's silence, and it's almost like a guard of honor because, oh my God, we haven't heard the cry of a baby, and that is the most beautiful sound for them. And it's kind of scary to think that is the path that might be taking, or that countries might be taking. And there's another one, I don't know if you've watched it, but it kind of taps into this. It's called The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Right?
I know that, yes.
And it kind of taps into this notion of what happens when we don't have children about, and then...
Yeah, so true, yeah.
Look what can happen.
So basically, I want to go back to that cooking thing.
Yeah.
Cooking is important for family connection, not just family connection. It's also something you look forward to as one thing you're doing which is unique. And what would be, I know you just gave this in a really strong message, make time. That's it.
Yeah.
Guys, no excuse.
It's no black and white.
Okay.
It's no grey, sorry.
Yeah, no gray area, just straightforward message. Make time. If you think your kids are your priority, you will make time. Okay, but I know it's not that easy.
Yeah.
Let's say, it takes time for people to adapt and change because, someone doing this for years, suddenly if you ask them to start cooking, make time, it's challenging. So let's take a family, both parents are full-time. and then they have 2 kids. Both has to leave in the morning, and by the time they come home, it's, let's say, 6:30 or something. The easiest for them is to grab something on the way, and then the kids are there, and then they eat because they're really tired, or they have a million other things going through or gone through the day. So for them, the only weekend is the time they can give their time. Let's say that. So what do you say might change for them? One small thing to make it work, like homemade meals.
Being organised in your approach to managing a home will absolutely help. So something that we do at home is on the fridge we have a weekly meal planner.
Okay.
And it's got Monday, Tuesday, all the days of the week, right?
Yeah.
And so Monday might be we're having spaghetti bolognese. Tuesday we're having brisket tacos, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So that could be a step, and that's something that you can do together as a family. So you may not have time to do it during the week, but why not allocate an hour or two on a Sunday?
Yeah.
And say, right, what does everyone want to eat? Because that's what we do. We usually
Oh,
do it.
really?
Yeah, like kids usually have an input into that. And
So it's like a family boardroom meeting.
well,
And you're the
it's
CEO
on
of
the
cooking.
couch here. I bring it out and I rub it off, and I say, my daughter, what are we going to do? And sometimes she'll be like, I want this, this, and that, or she'll pull up a TikTok and say, hey, can we make this? My son too.
Yeah.
So allocating, again, I'm back to time, allocating some time, even if it's on the weekend, to plan what you're going to eat. And they don't need to be elaborate meals. They just need to be tasty, healthy, simple meals that you can whip up together in 30 minutes.
True, yeah.
And there's lots of those out there. There's plenty of those out there. Even if you're not great at cooking, there's plenty of those out there. So planning, I'm a very organised person as well, so that's why I say that. So the planning component.
Yeah.
And then go and do the grocery shopping.
Yeah.
Again, allocate the time. Maybe prepare some of those things in advance, in bags, written in the freezer, so today we're having this. It's written on the bag, you pull it out. In the morning, you let it defrost in the sink. When you come home, everything's already defrosted. Things are already cut up in the kitchen, or it could already be mixed up in that one bag. So all you have to do is put it in the pan.
True.
And go. Whilst mum and dad may be coming home at 6 o'clock, what time are the kids coming home? Especially if you've got teenagers. They're probably
3:30,
home.
yeah.
Why can't they pull
Chip
something
in,
out?
Yeah. No, they're busy watching something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, see, it seems like the message here is simply this. If you prioritize your kids, if you want your kids to be healthy, happy, get good sleep, be organized. And make sure, there's homemade meals.
yeah.
Not every day, at least maybe 3-4 times a week is always good.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to. And look, there are days on that 7-day roster where I will put eating out, and then there's one day I'll always put on there, feed yourself. Okay. That's what I write on there, feed yourself. So the kids know on that day, because they'll go to the fridge and they'll look, okay, this is for dinner. And then on the day that it says feed yourself, I don't get asked what's for dinner. They feed themselves.
Oh, I like that. So you have instructions to say feed yourself.
It says feed yourself. You could ask my husband, feed yourself or eating out. Or if we're going to a barbecue or going to someone's place, it'll be on there.
So it looks like it's, also communication.
Yeah.
The home thing, the family thing is like I don't want to compare this with business, but...
Oh, please do, because I think I know exactly where you're going, and I'm on that gravy train.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I feel like we invest so much time, energy, and everything in our jobs, which is the business. We're giving, we're communicating, we're trying to achieve KPIs, we're trying to do all these things. But when it comes to the family, we tend to ignore all the things we excel in our day jobs.
And they are transferable skills.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. What is it? Are we taking granted, or we have fear of losing job on the other side? What is it?
Yeah, I think that we're so consumed with capitalism and wanting things, tangible, like things, right? That we focus so heavily on the money component, and therefore we invest strongly in the area that's going to give us the money, right?
Yeah.
Because investing in our family doesn't necessarily give us a financial return.
True.
But the return that it gives us far outweighs any money that you can get from a job. So I think that's where that disconnect.
How can you give an example for people who see the other way? Because a lot of times people they want to see tangible evidence. It seems like you have faith, you have you have experienced this in your own family, so that's why it's evident for you already.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of families out there, they haven't seen this. They come from broken families, or they come from energy which is not rewarding, and for them, they want to just make more money so they can control life, rather than saying, I'm going to invest in my family, where this is what's going to happen. It's almost like, unknown, uncertainty, but something keeps us going. So that's where I feel like there's a difference, where people focus on money a lot because they think money is going to solve all the problems in the world.
Yeah.
But we know...
Well, the more sometimes, the more money you have, the more money you spend. It doesn't necessarily mean the more happiness you have. And I think for me, it was very evident. I travelled a lot to South America when I was young. So my parents were very good at taking us to South America every couple of years. So my first experience was when I was 3. That's probably where I have my first very solid experience of an interaction with my dad. And then I went again when I had my 8th birthday there, my 9th birthday there. And then I went when I was 15 and then 21, and I have not been back since, unfortunately. But back to your question, going there, even as a very small child, I remember noticing the difference between how I lived here and how they lived there. And whilst here I had more things and I had access to hot water whenever I wanted, over there I had to pull a lever so I could have a shower and all of these things. So a little bit more poor, but my family thankfully weren't so poor, but they lived modestly, let's say. But they were so happy.
Yeah.
They were so happy and they were generous. And I remember this one time, so this was when I was 8, and I remember my cousin, who I get along very well with, who I still talk to this day. She's about 3 or 4 years older than me. Her name's Mariela. And she was like, oh, Vane, because they call me Vane. She's like, Vane, we need to have a shower. Like, we've got to have a shower, And for, like, the next day. And I was like, oh, I don't want to have a shower late at night, because it came at certain times. It came at 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
So at 6 in the morning, you had to be up and pull the lever so that you could have a shower at 7. It takes an hour for the water to come in and to heat up, right? And then there was the midday one and then the nighttime one. I was like, I'm not doing the nighttime one. Can we do it in the morning? And she's like, you're not going to get up in the morning. And I was like, I'll get up in the morning. Anyway, somehow my arm was twisted and I ended up having a shower in the night for the day before. But it was an experience because it wasn't a lot of water coming through, and there were 3 girls that needed to have a shower. We all jumped in the shower together, and it was like this party. And she was washing my hair, I was washing my other cousin's hair, and we were singing, and it was just
joy. Yeah.
It was so much joy. And whilst, yes, we had to pull the lever and wait, and it was quick, your turn before the water goes, quick. And what they meant before the water goes, so the water would still keep coming through, but all of a sudden it would be cold, snow-capped water. I'm talking really, really cold water.
Wow.
So we had to hurry, but it was joy.
Yeah.
And there wasn't much, but there was a lot of laughter, and there was a lot of those type of moments.
That's beautiful. I think I did a road trip in South India. I remember something similar, where the poorest people on the planet are willing to give everything they have. And the people who had nothing are coming and trying to help in everything they can. And that trip really stuck in my head, also in my heart. That's when I also felt like, you know what? All the riches in the world, yes, it's good to have X, Y, and Z. But when it comes to the joy, the content, and the fulfillment, it comes with something totally different.
Yeah, it's priceless.
Yeah.
And the sad thing about joy is that as we become older and we're burdened with responsibility,
Yeah.
we become more clouded. We can potentially become more cynical. We forget to see the joy. And then when life comes and ankle taps you
Yeah.
and you're brought down to
Yeah.
grassroots and you have to climb back up again,
True.
it's the small things. For me, it was the small things where I learnt to find joy again.
Nice. So you traveled a lot.
Travelled a lot, yes,
Okay.
from the age of 3.
Okay. What's your favorite place?
Oh, my all-time favourite place is Cuba.
Cuba.
I love Cuba. Yeah.
Never been there, but Cuba, of course, there's a lot shown in movies and, those Narcos TV series.
Yeah.
And then those Havana, is it the Havana car? And the Cuban cigars?
The Cuban cigars.
Okay, why you like Cuba?
Because it was so different. It felt
in
like
what sense?
It felt like Cuba was kind of stuck in a different era. Like it was, the cars.
What's the pace of life?
When I went,
Yeah.
might have changed now, but when I was there, very much like an island life.
Oh, so more relaxed.
More relaxed,
Yeah.
more slower pace.
Yeah.
Everyone's super friendly. You can hear music playing.
Yeah.
You see people on the site, like how in the movies,
Right.
they've got their little tables and they were playing,
playing,
their dominoes
yeah.
and they're drinking their rum and they're rolling, the big Cuban ladies are rolling the cigars on their leg and, and they call out at you because they can see, even though I think I look Hispanic, but I obviously don't look Cuban. So,
Yeah.
and then when I speak Spanish, they know that I'm not from there. So they kind of they shout out at you, hey, and you're like, hey, how are you? And, the Creole food and, walking down the Malecom and, seeing the water lap up on it's just such an incredible place. And then going to, Santa Ana and going to see Che Guevara's museum the history that's there. And wow, this is part of history for my culture.
Yeah, yeah.
This is my culture's history. And it was amazing. I have such amazing memories from that place. I met a family there. They took me in. I stayed with them. I would go and collect water and it was just such an amazing experience.
If you ask yourself why you like that place, apart from all the things you said, what do you think is one thing really connects you from your heart?
It was simple.
Simple life. Simple joy.
Simple joy. Simple joy.
There's no show off.
No pretense.
Yeah.
No flashy clothes.
Yeah. They're just being themselves.
Yeah. And we were actually having a conversation a few nights ago. I choose to believe that people are good. If we give people an opportunity to show who they are, I believe that people will come through and show that they are good.
Yeah.
Other people think that people are more intrinsically evil or not good. I choose not to believe that. And being in a place like that, I think that's where that seed was probably planted for me, because some of these people, is where I stayed in the part of this family that I had met, they lived in a place called Eléctrico, and it was to get in there.
Yeah.
I sat in like a horse and carriage. That's how they were getting you in there. And then you get to a certain place, and then you had to hop down, and it was muddy roads and walking around, and you had to go to the local school and get water, and electricity would go. The full experience.
Of 1800s.
The full Cuban experience I got there.
Wow.
But everyone was kind. Everyone was generous. This family that didn't have a lot opened their home to me with no expectation of anything.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And what a nice place to be in. How simple that is.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we replicate that here? Why can't any nation that's not in those conditions replicate that? What's the difference?
Yeah, true. Well, I think one thing really resonates with me is I also think majority of people are good people, have good hearts. They want to do the right thing, good thing for their family, for the loved ones. But in that process, they've been thrown into different challenges. And to protect themselves, I personally think to protect themselves, they show a different side. But generally, I would say majority are good people, and every individual is born good. What they become, it's a different story. But generally, human beings are, by true nature, all they have is joy, kindness, and compassion.
Yeah. And that's evident in small children, right? When you see small children, they are not, they're unfiltered.
True, yeah. That's why they're godly.
That's right.
So, okay. Travel, cooking, family, all these traditional, I wouldn't say traveling is traditional, but recently it has become traditional as well. People are starting to travel a lot. So Cuba is your favorite place.
Absolutely.
What was your challenging travel place where it tested you?
Traveling, I'm probably going to say, because of what happened,
Yeah.
Hong Kong. So it doesn't sound like a place where you would be challenged, right?
Yeah.
But I was backpacking. So I started in Southeast Asia. So you can imagine the type of places that I was staying in. And I got my backpack rummaged through. And I got my money taken and my cards taken. So I was essentially in a country stranded financially.
Normally, this happened in Hong Kong?
But in a backpacker's place. So I was stranded financially. And that was my first, I guess, experience on my own, away from my family, in a foreign country, where something that, if that happened here, you can kind of navigate that.
Yeah.
But it was my first. You're on your own now. You're on your feet.
Yeah.
You need to think. And so lucky I had a little bit of cash stash in a separate place, because I had read somewhere before traveling that you shouldn't keep everything together. So I took that advice.
Oh, yeah, you followed some rules.
I followed some rules. So I had a little bit of cash to get me through to my next country. And I was on the phone to the bank, sorting out the card. That was going to take about 10 days, but they couldn't send it to an international place because I'm backpacking. I didn't know how long I was going to be in certain places. So I had to go to my mum's, and then talking to them about it. You need to then send that through. They sent me through some money as well. So that was kind of challenging in that respect, that I was thrown into, I guess, an adult situation.
Yeah.
At, 20, 21.
So you're out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and having to navigate that with, thankfully, a country that, does speak English.
Yes, they do.
So that made it easier. And thankfully I had followed some rules. So I had some money.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was probably the most challenging.
What's one thing you learned from that experience?
That I'm self-sufficient.
You can do it.
I can do it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, okay, you traveled and, the cooking, the family, the kids, and anything in your journey where you had to face or you have gone through or you're going through darkness, which is not self-imposed, but life thrown at you.
Yeah. So I think I alluded to that earlier. As a child, I was interfered with.
Yeah.
And I never said anything. Mm-hmm. And I just internalized that, and I probably projected what had happened to me onto other people, maybe other children.
Yeah.
And then when I was 15, I went to South America. So just to give you a bit of context, so at the 15th birthday for Latinos is a big birthday because, especially for a female, it's a coming of age birthday.
Yeah.
And we call it a quinceañera.
Okay.
And it's usually celebrated in a really big kind of grand way, and the parents present the daughter, and it comes traditionally from she's coming of age, she's ready to be married, and all of those
I can
things.
relate to that. In India, we do the same.
Right.
Yeah. So suddenly the clothes change.
Yes.
It's almost like you're moving from a kid stage to becoming a adult.
Yes.
And for female, it's a big deal.
Yes.
Male, no one cares.
Yeah.
When I turned 15, it's like, so what? And when my sisters turned 15, they had 3 days of festivities or something.
Oh, we don't go that extreme.
Yeah.
But we do give them a big party. So
okay. Yeah.
So for my 15th, I had the choice of, do you want to go overseas? So
you get a present.
Or do you want to have the big party? Right?
Oh, okay.
And me having had the travel bug from my parents since I was very little, you can imagine what I picked. I was like, fuck the party.
That's an easy guess.
I'm going to go overseas. I'm going to go to South America for 3 months. So, and looking back now, there was a reason why I made that choice.
Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And so I went on my own.
15?
Yeah, on my own. I got lost along the way. So they chaperoned.
So sorry, you need to give us a little bit, where did the journey start? Is it by train, by bus, by flight?
Flight. So my parents bought me a flight. My family overseas knew my itinerary. They knew what time I'd arrive in Quito. Someone would come and pick me up. All perfectly organised.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
15-year-old Vanessa gets to Kingsford Smith Airport. Bye. All excited. I'm going to go for 3 months and I'm on my own. Look at me. I'm so grown.
Yes.
And they give you, when you're young, you have someone chaperone you, assist you.
Yeah.
When you're
under 18. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got my assistance, got onto my flight, did all of those things.
Yeah.
Get to America, get assistance, get all my connecting flights. Air stewardess or whoever it was, the ground crew was like, oh, let me see your ticket. Sees the ticket. Yep, this is your gate. Fantastic. Sitting there waiting at my gate. Gate opens, get on the flight.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong. And then sitting there talking to the person next to me, we're having a chat. Oh, do you have family in, in El Salvador?
Mm-hmm.
El Salvador?
Where?
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Look over. What do you mean El Salvador? Yeah, this flight's going to El Salvador. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm meant to go to Quito, Ecuador. And Latinos being Latinos, the guy sitting next to me is like, hey, she's going to Quito, Ecuador. And the whole flight's like, yeah. And they're laughing because obviously I'm going to San Salvador, El Salvador on this flight.
Yeah.
How it happened, I don't know. Anyway, it's major freak out. I'm kind of freaking out. What do we do? Flight attendant comes over, let me see your ticket, sees the ticket. Oh, no. And she realises that the previous flight at that gate, coincidence, right?
Yeah.
Or is it not a coincidence? I don't know. My seat was the exact same seat on this flight that I was on that it would have been on the previous flight.
Yeah.
Same gate, same everything. So the previous flight was going to Quito, Ecuador.
Wow.
Somehow, she saw it and went, oh yeah, Quito, Ecuador, this was Quito, Ecuador, this is your gate. But the San Salvador flight was also, it just was uncanny that it was all, the same gate, same seat, same everything. How does that happen? I don't know.
Not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence, but couldn't have it been the lottery? Like, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I'm on the flight. She's like, it's okay. When we land, you're going to need a visa. And I'm thinking, what the fuck do I do this? I'm 15. How do I do a visa? We'll help you. You've got to pay this much money. Thankfully, I had some cash on me.
Yeah.
Again, my parents, stuffed some cash in my pocket. I need to let my family know. So they're like, yes, when we get there, you're going to go here. They explained how everything was going to happen. And that's how it happened. Got off the flight. They took me. And you can imagine. So this is in the 90s, going to San Salvador, El Salvador, the crime capital of South America. I mean, it's only in the very recent years you've probably seen in the news that it's because of Bukele that it's now good. But back then,
no, it's
15-year-old solo girl, you can...
Especially if the government said no chance. You shouldn't be traveling there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't know this at the time, but my parents obviously did. So anyway, I get there, get into the office, they call. And my mum answers the phone and all I can hear is screaming and hysterics on the other end. So I'm thinking, oh shit, this is bad.
Thank you for listening, Chat with Loki. Follow and subscribe for more wisdom from everyday heroes.